As it currently stands at this moment in time, we are less than a month from the release of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the latest game in the Xeno series, and what's looking to be one of the best in the series altogether. My first video I did for this channel covered the evolution of the Xeno series, with a compilation of clips taken from each game in the series. However, I have yet to explain how this series came to be, and oh boy, what a history! From an ambitious RPG to rival the giant Final Fantasy series, to what we have today, the series has experienced some of the most drastic changes in the history of any series in the gaming world. Over the 3 videos, I hope to go over how the series came to be owned by 3 different companies, and the man in the middle of this entire mess, Tetsuya Takahashi. Takahashi's story begins in the early 1990s when he got a job with Squaresoft as an artist for the then growing Final Fantasy series. His early work was quite small, creating sprites and objects in Final Fantasy IV, but his work was enough to get the attention of the series creator, Hironobu Sakaguchi. Sakaguchi saw a lot of talent in Takahashi and brought him on board to help with the creation of the much beloved Final Fantasy VI. Takahashi was instrumental in creating the famous opening of the game, utilising the Super Nintendo's Mode 7 to deliver the cinematic that went well beyond what Sakaguchi had envisioned. With the opening and other achievements in the Final Fantasy series, Takahashi found himself involved in one of the most important tasks in Square history, writing the script to the now legendary Final Fantasy VII. However, the story Takahashi wrote was not the story JRPG fans remember it. It was a confusing mess of plots involving politics, religion, and the meaning of existence. The story was so unconventional that Square flat out rejected it as the plot for FF7, and thus a new story was created, one that would be a little more toned down for a larger audience to enjoy, which would come out to be the game we have today. However, the script that Takahashi wrote was not lost. Sakaguchi and Square as a whole saw a lot of talent in Takahashi and decided that his script could be used in a brand new game that he would direct himself. This was the beginning of Xenogears. Xenogears would be a big departure from the steampunk styles of Final Fantasy VII to a more sci-fi setting revolving around giant mechs known as gears, which is the origin of the game's name. Takahashi had always been a big fan of animes such as Gundam, and you can see that in the designs of the mechs being very similar to those of the Gundams. Xenogears would go on to be one of the most defining games in mecha game history. The story follows the character Fei Wong, who suffers RPG Syndrome 101, aka amnesia. After being exiled from his village after accidentally causing a massive explosion, Fei would go on a long journey with a whole cast of characters, and they find themselves fighting a super advanced nation which uses their technological superiority to manipulate the worlds to benefit themselves. The gameplay uses a turn-based battle system similar to that found in classic Final Fantasy games, but with a twist. Rather than do a single attack, characters can use a light, medium or heavy attack in different orders to create combos which can do lots of damage to enemies. The game was also famous for using a lot of individual sprites to make the 2D characters appear to move fluidly. Along with this, the backgrounds were completely in 3D polygons, not using any pre-rendered backgrounds like in Final Fantasy VII. All this combined together to create one of the most revered JRPGs of the 5th console generation, and is still considered a masterpiece today. Alas though, the ambition behind Xenogears would be its downfall. Unlike with Final Fantasy, Xenogears did not have the brand recognition, and thus its budget was limited, and this in turn resulted in the game's second half being told mostly through monologues by the main cast of characters. Despite this, Xenogears was able to move just under 1 million copies in its first year, with most copies being sold in Japan. Despite its reputation, the game never saw a release in the PAL region, and that trend would continue into the later installments, much to my Australian dismay. However, its sales would result in the series' death. Despite eventually selling over 1 million copies with help from a digital PS3 re-release, Square decided against making a sequel as they had many other big RPGs to work on. This resulted in Takahashi to make the decision to leave Square and form his own company, a small game studio by the name of Monolithsoft, and begin working on a brand new game to take up the reins left by Xenogears. This game would eventually become the Xenosaga trilogy, which I will talk about in my next video.